The woman turned around, and shockingly, another woman was attached to her back. They were the two-faced witch who controlled life on this land. The white-robed witch held moths in her hands that could bring life to humans. Suddenly, the dark witch's side turned around. She stared at Tom with a face full of hatred, completely different from the kind side just moments ago. She represented darkness and death, and anyone targeted by the black moth in her hand would have their life taken away. Tom had risked everything to break into this place, solely to obtain a white moth to save his beloved. At this moment, the dark witch stated that if he wanted to leave alive, he must help her complete a task. If he refused, Tom's life would end right there. After saying this, the dark witch vanished, and her voice echoed around them. The task was for Tom to make a clock. But on this barren mountaintop, how could he possibly make a clock? This was simply absurd. Tom looked around. There was nothing but a dead tree in the middle. But to save his beloved, he had no choice but to accept the task. In his confusion, Tom looked up at the blazing sun, and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He immediately stood up, stared at the dead tree in the middle, and began to take action. He arranged the dead branches and bones around him into the shapes of numbers, placing them around the dead tree, forming a clock face. Under the sun's rays, the shadow of the dead tree corresponded perfectly to the numbers. Just like that, a uniquely designed clock was complete. As soon as Tom finished, the dark witch appeared. She looked at the scene before her, somewhat surprised that Tom had actually managed to create a clock face. She turned around, and the white-robed witch appeared, happily congratulating Tom on completing the task. The dark witch turned back around, reached for a bottle, and said she would give Tom a reward. But this wasn't what Tom wanted. Tom angrily turned to flee, and at that moment, the white-robed witch turned around and handed the white moth to Tom. The moth landed on Tom's shoulder, and the white-robed witch urged him to hurry back and save his beloved. Tom didn't dare delay for a moment and rushed down the mountain back to town. His beloved was on the brink of death. One black and one white moth followed closely behind him. Tom ran all the way and finally reached the hospital. The medical staff nearby saw what was happening and quickly shut the window, coincidentally blocking the black moth outside. The white moth flew in and landed on the woman. The woman's complexion gradually recovered, and she actually opened her eyes. She had regained her life. Tom looked at his awakened beloved and smiled happily. Seeing that Tom had fulfilled his promise, the woman's father announced that he would give his daughter's hand to him in marriage. Tom finally got his wish and entered into matrimony with his beloved. However, they didn't know that the black moth was still searching for a target.